Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Zoe and in today's video I want to talk about the books I read in August. I think I want to start right talking about the books. First of all, my stats. I read 20 books in August. This was around 6,565 pages and my average rating was 3.21. I had 2 5 stars, 4 4 stars, 12 3 stars, 1 2 star and 1 1 star. I did not DNF a book and I rated all my books. So when I would say we start talking about the books, and I start with my 1 star. I know this was a TikTok favorite and I read this together with friends from the Citadel. We meet each other in Amsterdam and we decided to buddy read a book, and we decided on Set on You by Amy Lea, and we all thought we might enjoy this, so we all ended up hating this. So in Set on You, it's about a woman. She's a personal trainer, but she's also mid-sized, so she also talks a lot about body positivity. And she meets in a gym a man and she hates him immediately because of a stupid reason that you can easily talk about this and not really hating about this. And the main thing that I did not enjoy in this book, where I ended up giving this 1 star rating, is the fact I liked in the beginning how she talked about body positivity and like how you should not be afraid to go to the gym even if you're not like a thin person, if you're a mid-sized person, which is all true. And honestly, I think this is all we should need to her. But the thing is, you read her, she's also a fitness influencer on Instagram, so you read her Instagram feeds, what she posts, and the posts are good. They have a good statement. The problem is that this didn't really match up with how she thinks about people. Like, she's the most toxic person in this book who judge everyone for everything, not even in the fitness studio, like life decisions, clothing, the appearance of somebody. She's like, she was so negative about everything and everyone else, and this is something that pissed me off. Like, how can you write in your Instagram feeds to be yourself, to be positive about your body, to love yourself, and then hate everyone else for how they look like, what they're doing, because they're doing not correctly in your eyes. And this didn't match up with like the message that she wrote. And this was to the whole book, it was so horrible that I gave up this ending, giving up this 1 star. Move on to my 2 star. This was Loki. This is a comic, and I showed this in my August TBR video. And the main thing why I ended up giving this 2 stars was that this is not really a whole comic about Loki. This is a mixture of multiple comics, where Loki did an appearance, so we have 5 comics in it. My main problem is that I had a feeling that you didn't really get the full story, because it's like it starts talking about Silver Surfer, and it was the main comic about Silver Surfer, and in the comic was Loki, and this is why they end up putting this in there. And I didn't really enjoy this because I didn't feel the connection to the story from the comics. I ended up being confused, and this is not what I asked for, so I ended up giving this 2 stars. So let's start talking about all my 3 stars. I would say we start with the first one I'm seeing here, Cinderella is Dead. Cinderella is Dead is about, they live in a world where Cinderella existed, and then they decided that every girl in this entire kingdom should have the same like story as Cinderella and should fall in love on a ball. And the main problem is that if they need 3 balls to get married, and if they have not 3 balls, they like get killed. So this was really stupid, but okay, I tried to enjoy the story. I think the main plot around this scenario was kind of interesting to read. My main issue was that the synopsis of the book is that this girl, the main character, goes there and she is in love with a woman, and they also have something together, and she wants to run away with this girl, and the girl didn't want to go. So we follow the story now, and there are a few things that happen in the story where she always tries to talk to this other girl again, so run away with me, and the girl don't want to, and the switch from I'm so in love with this girl that I want to run away with her to I fell in love to another person instead after 2 hours knowing her is really close to each other. So I ended up giving this 3 stars for this whole love story thing, but I think the plot was also kind of interesting. Then I read WandaVision. This was the other comic that I talked about. I ended up giving this 3 stars. This was the same scenario like in Loki, but here you got a little bit more of WandaVision in the story, not just a few scenes. And the main thing that I didn't really like is that in the beginning you get a chapter where you know the history behind Vision, but you don't get a story from Wanda, like what is her powers, how she became the Scarlet Witch, which is, I think, a lot more interesting for the whole universe than actually Vision. I mean, if you watch the movies, you will know how Vision created. So, yeah. Same vibes with Loki. I wish this was a whole comic about them and not separately, but you get more comics about them in this one than in the Loki one. Then I read Paper Girls by Brian K. Vaughan. I ended up giving this also 3 stars. I think the color scheme is really cool. It was interesting, but also it was not really gripping me that I was like, okay, I need to read immediately the next one. So I ended up giving this 3 stars. I'm sorry that I'm not really talking about the books, but there's not much to say. The books were okay, but I was not like really hooked in the story. So I could say, yeah, this was amazing. Also to see King of Blood and Blood. This is about a story where Isolde gets married. She's a human and she gets married to the Vampire King, and everyone told her, oh, the Vampire King is so bad and you need to kill him. And she's like, yeah, I kill him. And then she sees him and she's like, okay, let me fuck him first and then I think about to kill him. And this was the whole story. There was not really a plot behind it. It was fun to read. I read this on my way to Amsterdam on my bus drive. It was like 10 hours, so it was fun. But it was not really like, I'm like, oh my god, this is so good. I give this a 4 star. So if you want a fun read, I think this is your way to go. Then I listened to the audiobook from Rick Riordan, the Lost Hero. It is the first book in the new series after Percy Jackson. And I ended up giving this 3 stars. So I think this was the start in the series. You learned the new characters, the old characters that you already know from the past books. Get them an appearance, so you already know some characters, and there is not really there was something going on, but it was not overwhelming like new for me. The coolest thing about this book was that they had more like in the Percy Jackson universe, in the Percy Jackson books you have the Greek mythology, and I think it's cool that in the new series, I don't know how the series is called, but the Lost Hero is also with the Roman mythology, so we learn the god's name from the Roman culture too. So I think this was fun. I definitely will read the next books, but I will not read the second book in September now, because Hani and Kelsey doing a read along again, and in September the Lost Hero is the book for September, but I already read it, so I come back in October with the second book to read this in October. I read Lore here. Oh, that's my bookmark in it. Lore is about this place in the modern day in New York, and there we have also Greek mythology. You have the gods in it, and every 7 years Zeus punished the god and make them mortal because they did something wrong, and people can kill, like the half gods can kill the god, and when they kill the god they became the next god. And like in the beginning of the book you have a few gods left that are really still the original god, and the other ones from different people. So I was kind of mad about the story, like why should Zeus punish the gods and make them mortal. Really liked Laura. I think she was a fun character, and also like the other characters and how they team up together, even though they are from different houses. I think it was fun to read, but the main issue that I had with the book is that I felt that the characters had an easy job to figure out the way that they did, and everything fell for them. Like there was no really big issues, so I ended up giving this 3 stars. Then I read the Bromance book club. This was by Lyssa K. Adams, and so this is the start in the series from the Bromance book club, and you read about the men having a book club to understand women better. I think this was so fun, and actually I understand the reason behind it. And in the first book you follow a couple and that had some issues in the marriage. This issue was miscommunication, and I hate the miscommunication trope. And honestly, I was so mad that like they lived with this miscommunication for 3.5 years. So I ended up giving this 3 stars because I thought this was so fucking stupid. Like, talk about this early. I think I'm too much in the story, because I think if I would experience this, I would easily say something. I can't hold my tongue for like 2 days. And when I fight with my boyfriend and I try to be silent to him, like ignore him, I talk to him like 5 minutes later and we discuss again, because I can't shut up. So I can understand why in the book sometimes it's like this, or other people living this like this, because how you're able to shut your mouth about this. So I ended up giving this 3 stars because I didn't really enjoy the whole plot in the story. Then I read for Lucy's book club, I read Strange Dreamer. This is the in the German it's split into 2, so don't be confused because I hold up 2 books now. I read obviously the first half first. This is this blue one. I ended up giving this 3 stars. I ended up giving both 3 stars, but I think the first half of the book was really boring. Yeah, like it was the beginning of a book. You learn the characters, you learn about the world, and so it was not really like it is gripping for me, at least. So this was boring. The other half was very interesting, and I thought in the beginning, okay, I give this book a 4 star, would end up like giving this book a 3.5 if you like doing the math correctly. But then the end happened, and I was mad at the end. I have a few issues with the book. I will discuss this in the live show with Lucy when the live show will happen. But yeah, so this book ended up giving it 3 stars. I will still read Muse of Nightmares. Then next 3 stars is Funny You Should Ask. The book was about like a superstar and woman that did an interview. In this interview went viral because she spent time with this actor for the whole weekend and wrote an article about this, and then this article went viral. And 10 years later now they are doing this interview again in the same, not the same setting, but in the same thing. And in this 10 years a lot happened. The actor is currently went in and out from clinics, like he's clean now and recovering addict, and she also went like was really successful with her career because of this interview. And you follow now the back and forth story in the book from 10 years ago, what happened 10 years ago and what is currently happening, and a few chapters with what happened in the midst of the 10 years. And you get the full development of both characters, and also the love story between them. And I think personally this book didn't overwhelm me. I'm not a big fan of reading about addictions, so I had a hard time in the beginning to actually read this book. And the thing is that but I really like to see how both characters grow in their life, and this was really interesting to read. And also the love story, in the end you really fell for them, so I think it was cute, but it was not my favorite of all time. Then I read The Risk, like the Mindfuck series from ST Abbey, and honestly I think this book was so funny. I can't give this book more than 3 stars because honestly no, but it was so funny to read about like this woman. She has a list with all her past. She had something horrible going on in the past, so she had a list and she wants to kill everyone from this list. And then she meets this FBI agent that works on this case. Like, she's the murderer and he works on this case to solve the problem. And she is kind of, and I think the funniest thing is that she tries to help him, but also not, because obviously she gives him clues that not really help him, but I think it's funny. And then I listened to one of audiobook. I'm done now, okay? Is When Harry Met Harry by Sydney Smith. This is an Audible, I think it's exclusive to Audible, and this is one of their like that you don't need to pay on user credit for it. So I listened to this. I think it was kind of okay. You follow these 2 men. They met each other on an airplane, and they didn't like each other from the beginning, and then you will meet them later and they work together and both are in a relationship, and there's like already like kind of feelings that they have for each other. And yeah, it was okay. I enjoyed my time with it, but yeah, it was not really overwhelming. So after I talked really bad about my 3 stars, let's go to my 4 stars. I hope it's better. I got the German arc for Cemetery Boys, Jadwell and Julian by Aiden Thomas. I really enjoyed this. I used to say that I had a really hard time in the beginning to get in this story, because there were like few words in it that I didn't really understand and not getting really explained in the beginning right away. It took some time before like Jadwell explained these words to Julian, and after that it was better. And I really like the story because Jadwell is a trans man, and he tries to prove his family that he is a real bourgeois, and you follow now his story, how he does everything to prove to his family that he's a bourgeois and the family is not it. And I really enjoyed the story in the end, not only for like the fantasy factor in the story, but also not really fantasy, like this mystical factor in the story, but also like for Jadwell's story and Jadwell and Julian's story in the book. So I can really recommend this to you. Hani and Ishu's Guide to Fake Dating by Adiba, Jaigirdar. I think this book was so fun. I really enjoyed both characters. I enjoyed Hani and Ishu, and also with like the cultural aspect that you learn something new in the story and how they develop in the story. Like Hani doesn't have like really good friends, actually like a really bad friend, and in the beginning I was really pissed about that Hani ignores that or let the things do with her, but they are developing in the end of the story. So this was really great to see, and I really enjoyed like Hani's family and how they end up. So yeah, I can really recommend this to you. This was fun to read and I really enjoyed this. Then after that, I read Unequal Affections by Lara S. Ormiston. I talked about this also in my August TBR, and this book is Pride and Prejudice retelling, and you read about this when Lizzie got her first proposal from Mr. Darcy and she accepted the first proposal, and what kind of issues came with the proposal. And you know in the story that Mr. Darcy didn't really like Lizzie's family, which was the main issue, that Lizzie told Mr. Darcy the first time no, and now you follow the story reading about when she said yes and what issues came with the family, how Mr. Darcy tried to figure out how to deal with the family. And I personally think that a few problems, of course, were problems that you saw in the end of Pride and Prejudice, how Mr. Darcy take care of it and afterwards told Lizzie, but in this book you also read about this, but in a different way, how Mr. Darcy dealt with it. But I really enjoyed to see like the issues, because I personally think that these issues will also be the issues after the second proposal. I mean, she accepted in the original Pride and Prejudice, she accepted the proposal in after the second time. But I think the main problems with the family and how Mr. Darcy needs to deal with the family is the same. So I really enjoyed this. It was a fun read. I can recommend this to you if you're like a Pride and Prejudice fan. And then the next 4 stars, this was also a German arc, so I don't talk about this a lot because this is a real German arc, and this was like a non-fiction book about depression, and this was like a guide for the family, friends, and also people that suffer from depression. And the important thing is to know that you still need to go to therapy. If like you have depression and read the book, you still need to go to therapy because this is not a therapy book. But I suffer for myself from depression, so I read this. I think it was understandable. I think it's also good for families to understand your family member better that suffers from it, and I really enjoyed this. And there were a few questions in there that I think I like it. In the end of the chapter, you have like one question that you need to answer, or like little prompts you need to do, like do a list with everything that you like to do, like 10 things on a list that you enjoy to do in your free time. And a few things I filled out, but I was also on vacation, I couldn't really figure out. And a lot of question is like ask your family member that have depression, and obviously I could ask myself because and now let's talk about my 5 stars. The first one that I read is Ratgeber by Brandon Sanderson. I really enjoyed the book. It follows 3 characters. You follow Siri, who is like this strong woman in the story that marries the God King. Then you follow also her sister, Vivienne. You also follow Vesha and Lightsong. And you follow these 4 characters, but mainly you follow Siri, Lightsong, and Vivienne. Vesha has a few chapters in it. And I really enjoyed the story. It's like about politicals, it's about religion, and mainly about religion. And I think it was so fun to read. I enjoyed my time. I really liked the magic system. And the beginning was a bit confusing, but in the end it made all sense. And I tried to figure out connections, because I read that in the books is connections to the Stormlight Archives and Mistborn. I haven't read Mistborn, so I can put on connections. But I read the first Stormlight Archives, I read The Way of Kings, so it could use some connections. But I really enjoyed this book. I finished this, gave this 5 stars, and handed this over to my boyfriend and was like, read it. Because we were on vacation, he finished this book and he had nothing to read anymore, so like, weird. And he also enjoyed it, so yeah. And the last one is by Jennette McCurdy. I'm glad that my mom died. I need to say in the beginning a huge trigger warning for eating disorder, anorexia and bulimia, because she talks really in depth about this, and also like about abuse. So I listened to this. I need to say I was a huge iCarly fan. Obviously, I need to say I was a huge fan from all the Nickelodeon series, and mainly iCarly was my go-to series, and afterwards then Victorious. And after listening to this now, honestly, I'm heartbroken. I mean, now as an adult, I'm still like, I have a better view about child actors that I had back then when I was myself a child. So I thought, oh, it's cool, maybe to be a child actor. But honestly, after all these years now listening to child actors who have so much trouble too, they with eating disorders, with addictions, it's not so enjoyable more to watch this series, to figure out like how they got through some stuff. And especially after reading now Jennette McCurdy's I Think I Can Never Watch iCarly Again. It was really a heartbreaking story, and the title is really hard to read at first, but honestly I understand the title and I cried in the end of the book. It was such heartbreaking. I had all the time goosebumps all over my body. I was not able to listen to this book in one sitting. I needed breaks, so I think I need a whole week to finish this book. I had it as an audiobook. By the way, the audiobook is great. She reads the books herself, so you will not hear like a different person. You will hear Jennette McCurdy reading her own book, her own story to you, and this was really, really heartbreaking. And this is the only thing I can say about this, because, and she's like really honest about her experience, and also she talks really honest about co-workers and other actors that she worked with, like also about Ariana Grande, also about Miranda Cosgrove and Nathan Crossway were like the main co-workers that she had for over 10 years. And yeah, so I can really recommend these books to you. And overall, I think I hit an average month. Yeah, this was my whole August reading month. I hope you had an amazing August and a great reading month. And then I will see you in my next video. Bye!